Ideology, from Greek iota delta epsilon omicron lambda omicron gamma iota alpha, is a comprehensive set of normative beliefs, conscious and unconscious ideas, that an individual, group or society has. An ideology is narrower in ambit than the ideas expressed in concepts such as worldview, imaginary and ontology. Political ideologies can be proposed by the dominant class of society, such as the elite, to all members of society, as suggested in some Marxist and critical theory accounts. In societies that distinguish between public and private life, every political or economic tendency entails ideology, whether or not it is propounded as an explicit system of thought. In the Althusserian sense, ideology is the imaginary relation to the real conditions of existence. Etymology and history. The term ideology was born during the Great Terror of French Revolution, and acquired several other meanings thereafter. The word, and the system of ideas associated with it, was coined by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry in 1796, while he was in prison pending trial during the Terror. The coup that overthrew Maximilien Robespierre allowed Tracy to pursue his work, assembling the words idea, from Greek delta epsilon alpha, near to the Lockean sense, and logy, from lambda omicron gamma iota alpha. Tracy reacted to the terroristic phase of the revolution by trying to work out a rational system of ideas to oppose the irrational mob impulses that had nearly destroyed him. He devised the term to refer to a science of ideas, which he hoped would form a secure foundation for the moral and political sciences by examining two things. 1. Sensations people experienced as they interact with the material world, and 2. The ideas that formed in the mind due to those sensations. He conceived of ideology, a liberal philosophy which provided a powerful defense of individual liberty, property, free markets, and constitutional limits on state power. He argues that among these aspects ideology is the most generic term, because the science of ideas also contains the study of their expression and deduction. Tracy worked this out during the Napoleonic regime, and Napoleon Bonaparte came to view ideology, a term of abuse which he often hurled against his liberal foes in Tracy's Institut National. According to Karl Mannheim's historical reconstruction of the shifts in the meaning of ideology, the modern meaning of the word was born when Napoleon used it to describe his opponents as the ideologues. Karl Marx adopted this negative sense of the term and used it in his writings. He described Tracy as a fish-blooded bourgeois doctrinaire, a fish-blooded bourgeois doctrinaire. Tracy's major book, The Elements of Ideology, was soon translated into the major languages of Europe, and in the next generation, when post-Napoleonic governments adopted a reactionary stance, influenced the Italian, Spanish and Russian thinkers who had begun to describe themselves as liberals, and who attempted to reignite revolutionary activity in the early 1820s. These included the Carlist rebels in Spain, the Carbonari societies in France and Italy, and the Decembrists in Russia. In the century after Tracy, the term ideology moved back and forth between positive and negative connotations. Perhaps the most accessible source for the near-original meaning of ideology is Hippolyte Taine's work on the Ancient Regime, the first volume of Origins of Contemporary France. He describes ideology as rather like teaching philosophy by the Socratic method, but without extending the vocabulary beyond what the general reader already possessed, and without the examples from observation that practical science would require. Taine identifies it not just with de Saint-Exupéry, but also with his milieu, and includes Condillac as one of its precursors. De Saint-Exupéry read the works of Locke and Condillac while he was imprisoned during the Reign of Terror. The term ideology has dropped some of its pejorative sting, and has become a neutral term in the analysis of differing political opinions and views of social groups, while Karl Marx situated the term within class struggle and domination. Others believed it was a necessary part of institutional functioning and social integration. Analysis. There has been considerable analysis of different ideological patterns. This kind of analysis has been described by some as meta-ideology, the study of the structure, form, and manifestation of ideologies. Recent analysis tends to posit that ideology is a coherent system of ideas, relying upon a few basic assumptions about reality that may or may not have any factual basis. Ideas become ideologies, that is, become coherent, repeated patterns, through the subjective ongoing choices that people make, serving as the seed around which further thought grows. According to most recent analysis, ideologies are neither necessarily right nor wrong. Believers in ideology range from passive acceptance through fervent advocacy to true belief. An excessive need for certitude lurks at fundamentalist levels in politics and religions. This accords with definitions such as given by Manfred Steger and Paul James, which emphasize both the issue of patterning and contingent claims to truth. Quote, ideologies are patterned clusters of normatively imbued ideas and concepts, including particular representations of power relations. These conceptual maps help people navigate the complexity of their political universe and carry claims to social truth. The works of George Walford and Harold Woolsby, done under the heading of systematic ideology, are attempts to explore the relationships between ideology and social systems. Charles Blackburg has offered an account which distinguishes political ideologies from political philosophies. David W. Minard describes 6 different ways in which the word ideology has been used, as a collection of certain ideas with certain kinds of content, usually normative, as the form or internal logical structure that ideas have within a set, by the role in which ideas play in human social interaction, by the role that ideas play in the structure of an organization, as meaning, whose purpose is persuasion, and as the locus of social interaction. For Willard A. Mullins, an ideology should be contrasted with the related, but different, issues of utopia and historical myth. An ideology is composed of 4 basic characteristics. It must have power over cognition, it must be capable of guiding one's evaluations, it must provide guidance towards action, and it must be logically coherent. Terry Eagleton outlines, more or less in no particular order, some definitions of ideology: the process of production of meanings, signs and values in social life. A body of ideas characteristic of a particular social group or class, ideas which help to legitimate a dominant political power, false ideas which help to legitimate a dominant political power, systematically distorted communication, that which offers a position for a subject, forms of thought motivated by social interests, identity thinking, socially necessary illusion. The conjuncture of discourse and power, the medium in which conscious social actors make sense of their world, action-oriented sets of beliefs, the confusion of linguistic and phenomenal reality. Semiotic closure, the indispensable medium in which individuals live out their relations to a social structure, the process whereby social life is converted to a natural reality. The German philosopher Christian Dunker called for a critical reflection of the ideology concept, 2006. In his work, he strove to bring the concept of ideology into the foreground, as well as the closely connected concerns of epistemology and history. In this work, the term ideology is defined in terms of a system of presentations that explicitly or implicitly claim to absolute truth. Though the word ideology is most often found in political discourse, there are many different kinds of ideology: political, social, epistemological, ethical, etc.